My name is Ryan, and this is my wife, Desiree Garcia. We've been married shortly over 7 years now, and we have a 2-year-old daughter named Berlin. When Berlin was 6 months old, we found out that Desiree was pregnant once more. This time it was a boy. And on May 30th, 2012, she gave birth to Kylan Fidel. He was a handsome baby boy. However, shortly after his birth, he developed some complications, and over time these complications grew worse. In that time, Desiree and I entered a new journey in life that gave us a greater meaning of faith and of life. This is our story.
When Kylan was born, we were so excited. He was handsome, and I remember the first time that I saw him, I just completely fell in love. And, he was everything that a mom would dream of in a little boy. At first, he had some complications, but they seemed to be insignificant, so we weren't too worried about them. And over the course of the next few days, we began to find out that some of the complications were more than what we understood them to be at first.
And we got a call from the hospital, and it was Kylan's doctor. He asked if Desiree was there with me, and I said yes. You're on speakerphone. And he said, there's been a significant change in the prognosis, and we need you guys to come in. Hung up the phone and headed on over to Chalk. We get there, and the doctor sits us in a room, and he says, we did an MRI, and we have the results of the scan, and the prognosis isn't good. And at this point, there is not much we can do.
I began to experience so many different things. At first, I was so angry, and I thought, how could this be happening to us? Like, what did we do wrong? Or what did I do wrong? And there were just a mixture of feelings, everything from anger with God to a tremendous amount of guilt in myself, wondering what I must have done wrong when I carried him for him to have gotten this sick. And as strong as those feelings were, they immediately changed the moment that I walked into his room. I had managed at that point to get up enough courage to kind of hold him as close to me as I could without actually being able to pick him up. I would place my face against him, and I would just feel the closest thing that I've ever felt to feeling God in a room and feeling his presence. And 2 months, almost to the date after Kylan passed away, I felt inspired to write this song. And this song is about there being life in Jesus' story. And the reason that we can find life in our darkest moments is because Jesus conquered death. And he showed us that no matter how significant the death, whether it's figurative or even literal, that life can come out of that. And because there is life in Jesus Christ's story, there can be life in our stories, in my story, in your story, in every story, because there's life in Jesus' story, that through his death, we find salvation. And through the darkest of moments, we find light. And that's what I believe for Kylan's story, that the day that we lost him wasn't the end, but it was just the beginning.
And just with that, I know that God is great, because I will see my son again. That I do know.